In 1924, one of the staff of the Daily Express in London was suddenly approached by the news editor, who in an alarmed state sputtered out, "For God's sake, go down to reception and get rid of a lunatic who's down there. He says he's got a machine for seeing by wireless. Watch him, he may have a razor on him." The lunatic in question was John Logie Baird, one of the now legendary fathers of television. His fed-up landlord had just evicted Baird from his home after he gave himself a 1,000-volt shock experimenting with his new television apparatus, and he was looking for ways to fund his continuing work. The news editor's complete disbelief at Baird's claims should give you an idea of just how miraculous his invention was at the time, or of just how crazy a freshly electrocuted and evicted Baird looked. So how did this Scottish lunatic invent the television? And what happened next? Well, let's get into it and find out. Baird's first working television set was built in 1924, using a truly eclectic mix of everyday items that included an old hat box, a pair of scissors, some darning needles, a few bicycle light lenses, a used tea chest, and sealing wax and glue that he purchased. He also included the key breakthroughs of those who came before, the scanning disc that Paul Nipkow had invented around 40 years earlier, and a Thalofide cell invented by Theodore Case, which functioned as an improved version of the selenium that Willoughby Smith had discovered accidentally in 1872, just over 50 years before. In fact, many believe that Baird actually did use selenium as the light detecting implement in his early televisions, though no one knows for certain. It appears he may have wanted to keep secret just what exactly he was using for the vital step of converting the light from each scanned line into an electric signal. In March 1925, he made a public demonstration at a Selfridges department store in London, where he successfully broadcast moving silhouette images. Then, in October 1925, he broadcast a ventriloquist dummy's head, whom he nicknamed Stooky Bill, and unlike Baird's living, breathing acquaintances, was not bothered by the long hours spent sitting beneath bright lights as Baird experimented and tweaked his device. Then in late January 1926, he made the first public demonstration of true television images for members of the Royal Institution and a reporter from the Times, where he televised a live moving image of his business partner Oliver Hutchinson. And it's this device he demonstrated that we can describe the process of how it worked. First, he started with a Nipkow disc with 16 lenses in it. This would spin, transmitting a line-by-line scan of the subject. If we slow the spin right down, you can see that as the lens moves, it transmits light in varying intensities as its focal point passes across the varying brightness of the subject. When this varying in light intensity is then received by the Thalofide cell, it converts it into a corresponding varying electric signal. Baird then used a cable to send this signal to a neon bulb that would then vary its brightness in response to the varying current generated by the Thalofide cell. When this light was then shone through a corresponding Nipkow disc with a matching set of lenses, it projected the same image it received. And when you speed this process right up, you get what the eye perceives as a moving image. At the time, Baird could only produce a frame rate of 5 frames per second. Most of our broadcast images are now at a minimum of 24 frames per second, but he was soon able to increase this as he continued to refine his creation. Two remarkable things stand out when we consider this process. The first is just how simple and mechanical this first process was, and how it works can be easily explained in a matter of minutes, and yet the result feels like magic. The second is the process of scanning the image line by line, which is still how we digitally capture moving images in a lot of formats today. And the thought that this concept began all the way back with the fax machine we discussed last episode, invented by Alexander Bain in 1843. You'll notice that the key thing we're describing here is how the images were transmitted. We're yet to get to the infamous box with a glowing screen that would dominate our homes. From here, every development and advancement in transmitting images built upon the key basic concepts we've described, with each step causing significant leaps in the quality of image. So this is where we'll leave the process of the wireless transmission of moving images and begin to investigate the screen we view those images upon, starting with next episode where we'll talk about how we got to the hypnotizing focal point of our living rooms that we all live with now. And then how this inevitably spawned the little screens in our pockets that are magnets for our eyes and attention all day long.